Discover the incredible journey. An Apache's heartwarming sacrifice for his farms and a widow's survival. Eli stood in the golden glow of dawn, the sun illuminating the rows of corn that danced in the gentle breeze like a sea of green. This was his land, inherited from generations before him, each furrow of dirt rich with the blood, sweat, and tears of his ancestors. They had fought battles against nature, and now Eli fought against time. The vibrant sunsets painted the Arizona sky with colors that seemed too beautiful, too perfect. But there was an undercurrent of unease stirring in the tightly woven fabric of his community. The scent of freshly plowed earth filled the air, but the whispers hung heavy like storm clouds on the horizon as he worked the fields. Eli's thoughts drifted to Martha, the newcomer, the widow struggling to hold on to a life quickly unraveling after her husband's death. The neighbors hadn't welcomed her with open arms. Those whispers of prejudice cut through the crisp autumn air sharper than the chill. "She's not one of us." Eli felt a tightness in his chest. Her pain mirrored his own. He understood loss all too well. Every day felt like a fight to preserve his family's legacy. He couldn't sit back and let Martha's struggles go unnoticed. One afternoon, as the community buzzed with excitement for the annual harvest festival, Eli took a deep breath and made a decision. "We should help her," he proclaimed to the gathering of his neighbors, eyes blazing with determination. "Let us organize a fundraising event." The scornful chuckles that echoed bounced off the dry walls of their tight-knit community. "Help a stranger?" They scoffed, their faces twisted in disdain. Yet beneath Eli's quiet demeanor simmered a fire, a desire to bridge the ever-widening gap. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Eli invited everyone to join him at Martha's home, to see firsthand what she was facing. The emotional battle raged within him. Pulling at his very core, loyalty to his roots clashed with the call for compassion. "What if it was you?" he implored the skeptics, each word like an arrow aimed at their indifference. The upcoming festival had always been a celebration of hard work, yet here they were, overlooking the pain in their community. As the festival approached, dark shadows loomed over their hopes. A storm whipped through the valley, shaking the adobe homes and rattling the very spirits of the farmers. Rain fell in torrents, washing away the preparations and drowning their dreams. In that chaos, Eli found clarity. He could not abandon Martha. He had to protect her legacy and his own. The storm raged, but it also awakened a sense of solidarity among the townspeople. They saw the fierce commitment reflected in his eyes. Eli stood at the center, rain soaking into his skin, a warrior for his neighbor. As fierce winds howled, hearts began to shift. People spoke not of her and them, but of us. Just as it seemed despair would steal their courage entirely, Eli's call for unity swelled around him. Would they rise to the challenge of neighborly support when it was most needed? The very fabric of their community was now at stake, and the answer could redefine everything they once held dear. The days after the storm were a mix of hope and uncertainty. Eli's heart raced with the pulse of his community as they gathered to discuss the next steps. The rain had wreaked havoc, softening the once stubborn earth, yet it had also washed away some of the barriers that had divided their hearts. Eli stood at the front, a beacon of resilience, feeling as though he had summoned strength from the depths of his ancestors. They too had faced storms, both literal and metaphorical. Instinct surged through him, urging him to speak out. "Martha needs us now more than ever," Eli asserted, his voice firm but gentle. He looked into familiar faces, searching for any flicker of agreement, but their eyes were clouded with doubt. "Let us come together. We can save her farm and show her that she is a part of this community, a part of us." He saw a spark in a few of them, but the hesitation lingered like morning fog. Conversations buzzed around him. Some echoed Eli's sentiment, while others feared change. "What if things don't work out?" they asked. "What if we put in all this effort only for it to blow up in our faces?" Each worried voice carried the weight of truth. They had witnessed failures before. But Eli felt the urgency in his bones. Martha was fighting for her life, for her future. The best way to honor our roots is to grow deeper, not to dig in our heels, he countered, throwing open the doors to possibilities. One by one, as the sun dipped lower each day, neighbors began to come around. It wouldn't be easy, but they started offering to help with the festival preparations. They gathered at Martha's farm, planting seeds of hope in the windblown soil. Eli worked alongside them, his hands callous but warm, as he shared tales of courage and resilience. The festival approached, a glimmer of joy amidst the gray clouds that had shadowed their lives. Laughter rang out as children ran circles around the adults, a reminder of why they fought so hard to preserve their close-knit community. Yet, even as smiles emerged, Eli felt a gnawing tension in the air. The whispers hadn't vanished overnight. They simmered below the surface, a reminder of the prejudices that still existed as the day of celebration arrived. The field was transformed into a vibrant tapestry of colors. Streamers danced in the breeze, and the scent of roasted corn wafted through the atmosphere, promising comfort and shared joy. But Eli's heart raced with anxiety. Could they truly change the minds of those who clung to their biases? As people arrived, Eli caught sight of Martha standing at the entrance of her farm, vulnerable yet strong. She was the embodiment of hope amidst the trials. Nervously, he made his way towards her, each step heavy with the uncertainty of what the evening would unveil. "You're doing this, Eli," Martha said, noticing the furrow in his brow. "You've brought everyone together. If they don't see you as one of us now," he whispered, meeting her gaze, filled with the warmth of empathy, "nothing truly changes." The music played, and the air crackled with excitement. But still, an unshakable doubt lingered at the back of Eli's mind. Were they on the brink of something beautiful or merely skirting the edge of deeper division? As laughter erupted around them, the festival unfolded like a blooming flower. But just as Eli opened his mouth to propose a toast, the sudden silence that fell over the crowd sent a chill through him. From the edge of the gathering, an unfamiliar figure stepped forward. It was a man Eli didn't recognize, yet the fierceness in his gaze held the room captive. What did he want? In that moment, Eli's heart thundered with a mix of fear and anticipation, ready for whatever truth lay ahead. The stranger's presence loomed like a storm cloud among the colorful decorations. Eli took a breath, grounding himself, trying to read the man's expression. The crowd shifted, whispers igniting like sparks. Who was he? "Listen up, folks," the man called out, his voice strong and clear. Eli could feel the collective breath hitch in everyone's throat as they turned their attention to him. "My name is Caleb. I'm not from around here, but I've been hearing a lot about this festival and the troubles Martha's been facing." Eli felt the tension rise. Caleb seemed to be searching for something, the kind of clarity that often eluded people caught up in the moment. Maybe that was all they needed, clarity. He stepped forward. "And what have you heard?" Eli asked, summoning his courage. "I've heard about the storm, the struggle, and the community rallying to help." Caleb's gaze traveled over the crowd, taking in the mix of curiosity and skepticism. "Most importantly, I've heard about Martha's strength. But I want you to understand, I've seen storms before. I've seen what they can do." A hush fell over the crowd. They needed to believe in hope, yet Caleb's words dripped with an underlying caution. Eli's heart sank. Was he here to tear down the fragile walls they were trying to build back up? "Look," Caleb continued, his voice softer now, "I know how it feels to fight for what you hold dear. I understand the sacrifices and the doubts. But we have to be realistic, too. The land needs time to heal just like the people. It's not going to be easy." Martha stepped forward, her voice trembling but strong. "And what's your point, Caleb? Are you here to discourage us? Or to offer help?" "I'm here to help," he replied, meeting her gaze with sincerity. "But I also want us all to recognize that change doesn't come easy. It takes effort, patience," and Eli cut him off, fevered passion bubbling over in him. "It's not about what we think we can or cannot do anymore. It's about what we need to do together." Caleb raised an eyebrow, surprised by Eli's fervor. The crowd seemed to lean in, curiosity piqued. Would they allow one man's doubts to overshadow a collective vision? "What if we focus on the here and now?" Eli pressed on. "What if we put aside our fears tonight and just celebrate our community?" The sadness in the air shifted, as if the clouds overhead were parting to let the sun shine through. A few nods peppered the crowd, and Martha, a flickering smile returning to her face, clasped her hands together. Caleb hesitated, the tension still strong around him. All right, let us celebrate. But be prepared, there's more work to be done ahead than what we see today. The festival, still vibrant despite the heavy shadow, resumed. Laughter erupted again, the music dipped and swayed, surrounding them like a warm blanket. Eli felt a newfound energy thread through the crowd, fueled by Caleb's unexpected presence. Yet even amidst the joy, Eli's mind raced. The warning hung over him like a specter. What kind of storm was Caleb foreseeing? As the evening wore on, the community danced, talk flowed like water, and for a moment, acceptance filled the gaps where doubt once lingered. But Eli secretly worried what truths lay beneath the surface. Caleb lingered by the snack stand, watching the crowd with an intensity that hinted at deeper scars. What if he had more to share? Or perhaps what if he was guarding something significant? Eli stole a glance toward Martha, her laughter ringing through the air, and as he turned back toward Caleb, he caught a glimpse of fear behind his fierce demeanor. What was he truly hiding? Could one man's sacrifices reflect the strength of the entire community? Would Caleb become an ally or a threat? The questions spiraled around Eli's heart as the stars began to twinkle above. Yet, with each spark in the sky, Eli felt small flickers of hope. Could they forge a path together? One that embraced their past as it prepared them for the future? As the evening unfolded, the weight of unresolved anxieties pressed heavily on him. What was coming next, and how could they face it? Together? Uncertainty clung to the air. But one thing was clear: Eli had to learn more about Caleb, and he would find a way to bridge that divide. Little did he know, uncovering the past might just change everything. The music pulsed through the crowd, a heartbeat that matched Eli's racing thoughts. Laughter mingled with the sweet scent of funnel cakes and popcorn, but his mind was elsewhere, entangled in questions about Caleb. The man's presence was magnetic, drawing attention but also casting long shadows. Eli couldn't shake the feeling that something important was just out of reach. Hey! A familiar voice broke through his reverie. It was Lila, her face brimming with excitement. Did you see the way Martha lit up when Caleb spoke? She needed that. Eli plastered on a smile, but his heart was still heavy. Yeah, but we don't know his story. What if he's here to stir up trouble? Lila shrugged, her vibrant curls bouncing as she glanced toward Caleb, who was now deep in conversation with some of the elders. Maybe he's seen struggles we can't even imagine. Maybe he's here to help us navigate those storms like he said. Eli wanted to believe that, but doubt crept in like the creeping shadows of dusk. As he watched Caleb with the elders, Eli noticed the way the man's eyes held a depth of sorrow beneath the calmness. What had he been through? What burdens did he carry? The festival continued to unfold around him. Kids darted past, giggling, while couples danced beneath strings of twinkling lights. Eli inhaled the crisp evening air, pushing aside his worries, even if just for a moment. They had fought too hard to rebuild after the storm. This night was about unity. Come on, let us join them. Lila tugged at his arm, her enthusiasm infectious. With a reluctant sigh, Eli let himself be led toward the dance floor. The music swelled, and he swayed awkwardly at first, soon losing himself in the moment. Laughter bubbled up as Lila twirled, her joy spilling over and spreading like wildfire. It was then, in the midst of the celebration, that a sudden clamor erupted at the edge of the festival. The crowd parted and Eli's heart sank. Caleb stood there, speaking animatedly but with urgency. Eyes widened, murmurs rippled through the crowd. Eli's heart raced. Was Caleb warning them again? Adrenaline sent him moving, pushing through the crowd. As he neared, he could see the faces around Caleb were drawn with worry. He stopped just short of the circle, straining to hear his voice. Not just about tonight. I understand you want to celebrate, but we need to prepare for what's coming. The remnants of the storm are still nearby. The rivers are rising again. A collective gasp trailed through the crowd. Faces paled, parents looked anxious, and the laughter that had filled the air just moments ago dissipated. Eli felt that bubble of hope he had nurtured. Pop, was this really happening? Martha stepped up, her voice steady yet unyielding. We've been through the storm before, Caleb. We've survived. Have you come to remind us of our fears? Or do you believe in our strength? Caleb seemed taken aback, his words caught in his throat. He took a deep breath, and in that pause, Eli saw the weight of his past. Hadn't Martha fought against the storm for the community? Wasn't her resilience a beacon of hope? I believe in your strength, Martha, Caleb said, his voice quiet but filled with resolve. But we need to prepare for the worst. You can't turn away from the truth. Eli's thoughts spun as he absorbed the tension crackling between them. Would they focus on preparation, or could they meet the storm head-on together? Could they weave hope and caution into a single fabric that would keep them safe? The crowd shifted, uncertainty crawling like a creeping chill. Lila squeezed his hand, eyes wide. Eli looked at Martha and then back at Caleb. This could be a turning point for them all. Would they allow fear to dictate their actions? Or would they forge a new path? One that embraced both caution and courage? As the night pressed on, the stars twinkled above, watching, waiting. Eli felt the urgency of their choices echoing like a distant chant in his heart. The moment of truth lingered on the horizon, and he wasn't sure which way they would turn next. Faced with the weight of Caleb's warning, Eli's heart thudded in his chest. The once joyful atmosphere felt like a heated balloon, ready to pop. He glanced at Lila, her grip tightening around his hand, the glimmer of celebration dimming in her eyes. Do we really think it's that serious? Eli whispered, though the depth in his gut told him it was. Caleb's words echoed back to him, heavy and unyielding. Hey, Lila called out, trying to rally the crowd. We need to listen. If there's a storm coming, we can't just ignore it. The murmurs began to rise again, but Martha stepped forward with poise. She had always been the anchor of their community. Preparation doesn't mean surrender, she stated, her voice cutting through the tension. It means standing firm. We've faced trials before. Together we're stronger. Caleb crossed his arms, still visibly troubled. I'm not saying you aren't strong. I'm saying you should be cautious. The rivers have taken lives before, and they can do it again. Let us not wait until it's too late. The crowd stirred, glancing between Martha and Caleb, uncertainty lingering like fog. Eli felt the mix of fear and defiance in the air. He could see the flicker of doubt in Martha's eyes, but he also caught her determination. She would stand her ground. Then what do you propose we do? Someone yelled from the back. Leave our festival? Give up our night of joy? Caleb turned to face the crowd, his gaze penetrating. No, but we should organize. Let us gather resources tonight. We need to clear the paths to safety, seek higher ground. Prepare while we can still work together. Eli's instincts screamed for action. Torn between instinct and logic, he felt Lila's hand squeeze tighter, urging him maybe more than he knew. What if we? He started, stepping forward as the eyes of the crowd turned towards him. What if we set up a plan that includes both? Celebrate tonight, gather supplies, and then rally together to protect our homes? Martha's eyes flickered with recognition, and Eli sensed momentum grow. Yes, she nodded slowly. The kids can help set up a barrier along the riverbanks. If we give them a purpose, they will feel involved. Exactly. Lila beamed. Let us show the kids that we're not afraid. Let us turn this fear into something uniting. Eli felt the spark of hope rekindle in the crowd, the shift of mood palpable. Conversations began as clusters of people gathered, discussing potential plans while the distant sounds of music still pulsed through the air like a heartbeat. He watched as laughter began to mix with urgency, the tension simmering into determination. Caleb, still on edge, observed quietly, mingling into the conversations, offering insights, and solidifying himself within this vibrant web of community. But we need to act fast. Caleb interrupted suddenly, jabbing a finger toward the horizon, where dark clouds gathered ominously. I've seen storms shift course before. Can happen again. The laughter faded and reality set back in. Eli still felt a thrill coursing through his veins. Do we have what we need? He asked Caleb. The man turned to him with resolve this time. It's all about the mindset. Hope gives strength, but planning ensures safety, Caleb replied, a glimmer of respect igniting in his voice as the night wore on. Eli realized this wasn't just about survival, but about the heart of their community. They were the threads woven together, stronger than any storm that tried to tear them apart. As dusk deepened into night, the first drops of rain began to fall, gentle yet persistent. Eli took a deep breath, sensing the shift. They had a choice now: embrace their unity or buckle under fear. Eli turned to Lila. the determination in her eyes matching his own. "What do you think is our next step then?" he asked. A rolling thunder responded in the distance. As the first real storm of the season made its approach, a new question loomed larger than both the celebration and the storm. How would they transform this connection into action before the sky turned dark? Eli stood at the edge of the crowd, the pulse of uncertainty thrumming all around him. The rain increased, each droplet a reminder of the urgency before them. He could feel Lila's steady gaze, her faith shining through even as the storms loomed. "We need to prioritize," she said softly, her voice firm. "Let us make our plan clear so we don't get caught off guard." "Right," Eli nodded, a surge of adrenaline rising within him. He raised his voice, gathering attention once more. "Let us split our time. Tonight is important. We celebrate and then we prepare. We can give this festival a purpose. Show everyone that we are not just fighting against the storm, we're building something stronger." People murmured in agreement, a sense of electric hope wrapping them tightly together, like the strings of a guitar waiting for the right hand to strum its first chord. Caleb stood nearby, his face still etched with concern, but Eli saw a shift there too. Not everyone was fully on board yet, but the energy was shifting. "Okay, we'll need teams," Martha chimed in, her voice cutting through the chatter. "One for gathering supplies, a few folks can set up storage here, and the rest will prepare barriers near the banks." Eli felt a rush of gratitude for Martha's leadership. "I'll help set up the barriers," he offered quickly. "The kids can help carry lighter things. They need to feel part of this too." "Great idea. Let us involve them." Lila supported him, her voice rising like a beacon of encouragement. They'll be excited to help protect their homes. As the plan began taking shape, Eli felt the community start to coalesce around purpose. Families began to break off into smaller groups, animated discussions blossoming everywhere. He caught glimpses of familiar faces, expressions determined and fierce. It was beautiful and exhilarating, a whirlwind of hope fueled by a shared commitment to stand together. But as they worked to divide responsibilities, Eli's eye caught Caleb still standing alone. Something in his stance struck Eli. It was as if he was wrestling with himself. Eli approached him, trying to bridge the gap. "Caleb, your concerns are valid. We need your knowledge. Help us figure out the best way to prepare." Caleb crossed his arms again but met Eli's gaze. "It isn't just about physical preparation. It's the mental game that's tough." His voice lowered, as if revealing a secret. "Many will be traumatized by what they remember from last time." Eli's heart sank at the mention of past losses, but he remembered the strength in unity. "Then let us use that fear as a force for courage," he replied earnestly. "We can stand up for each other. Let us talk to them, share the plan, and let them know they're not alone in this." Caleb's eyes softened, contemplation replacing the tension on his brow. "You might be onto something." He took a slow breath, and Eli felt the faintest crack in the wall he'd built for so long. Before they could discuss further, a loud crack of thunder interrupted them all, echoing like a drumroll from the heavens. The crowd froze for a heartbeat. Eli could hear the quiet breaths mixed with the rustling leaves. This was their moment, together or apart. The choice lay in front of them. Together. A voice shouted from the crowd, breaking the tension. There was something about that shout that ignited the spirit in the air. Eli clasped Lila's hand tighter. "Let us show them what unity looks like. We can weather this storm." As the final notes of their celebratory festivities hung in the air, the storm brewed with a tense ferocity, a reminder of what was at stake. And Eli felt the heaviness shift in his gut, resonating with Caleb's earlier words, whispering just on the edge of his consciousness. What if the storm wasn't just an act of nature, but a defining moment that could tear them apart or help them rise stronger than ever? As the clouds rumbled and the rain poured, a new resolve began to swell in Eli's chest. Would their unity hold through the darkness? Or would this storm reveal the cracks they feared most? Eli stood rooted in place, the raindrops pelting against his face, the coolness contrasting the warmth of the fire they had just celebrated around moments ago. He looked over to Lila, her eyes narrowing slightly as the first mighty gust of wind swept through. People were clustering closer, instinctively seeking comfort in one another's presence as fear danced at the edges of their resolve. "Let us get moving," Lila shouted, her energy contagious. We have to start prepping those barriers and gathering supplies before the worst hits. The urgency in her voice snapped Eli into action, as if pulling a taut string. He turned to the crowd and lifted his chin. Everyone, let us make sure we're in groups. If you have tools or any supplies we can use, get them. Let us move. He felt a rush of adrenaline as people began working as one. Families joined hands, grabbing buckets, shovels, and whatever they could find. Eli felt lightened by the growing camaraderie, the powerful hum of their joint efforts driving him forward. As he worked with a few kids to stack crates for the barriers, he caught Caleb's eye again. The man was still caught in his thoughts, his jaw tight. Eli called out, "Caleb, we could use your expertise. How should we set this up?" Caleb hesitated, but then trudged over, his eyes darting between the makeshift supplies and the riverbank where they planned to put up barriers. "We need to reinforce those piles with something, or the water's just going to wash them away." Eli nodded, grateful for Caleb's input. "Let us use those sandbags the festival committee brought. They'll hold together." Suddenly, a rumble came from the skies, more menacing this time. The wind howled, and Eli felt a shiver run down his spine. But he couldn't afford to let fear creep in. "We can do this," he said, more to himself than anyone else. His hands moved quicker now, adrenaline fueling every motion. Before long, the kids were giggling, filling the sandbags, passing them along the line like a factory assembly. Lila ran a few feet ahead, directing traffic, her strong voice rising above the storm. "Eli!" she shouted just as he paused to catch his breath. "Come help with this. We're losing ground fast." Eli rushed over, his heart pounding not just from the exertion but from an electric sense of possibility. He began stacking the filled sandbags, layering them carefully, feeling a rush as the barrier formed more solidly with each addition. But then a small voice piped up from behind him. It was Caleb, concern lacing his words. "Eli, what if this isn't enough? The storms, we can't underestimate them." Eli stopped, their eyes meeting. He could feel Caleb's worry like a weight on his shoulders. "We'll adapt. We've faced tough times before, right? Remember last year's floods? We banded together then. We can do it again." His words hung in the air between them, heavy and full of promise. As evening began to sink low, the sky turned a furious shade of purple, the wind screaming a warning. The first slashes of rain were now joined by brutal gusts, whipping through the community like a sentient beast. Lila's determined expression stood firm against the swirling chaos. They were almost done, but Eli felt the weight of so much more pressing down, the fear creeping back in. "Let us gather, everyone. We need one last meeting. A rallying cry before it truly hits." Eli shouted, feeling an unshakable determination rise in his chest. There would be no defeat here. As the community huddled together, Eli saw Caleb's supportive nod from the back. In that moment, they weren't just fighting against a storm. They were reclaiming their power, their unity. Just as Eli opened his mouth, poised to raise their spirits one last time, a deafening crack of thunder rolled overhead, louder than anything. "Stay close," he yelled, his voice carrying above the storm's wrath. "We need each other now more than ever." As everyone gathered closer, something deep within Eli stirred. Did they truly have what it took to survive not just the storm outside but the storms within? Where would they stand when the dust settled? Could they face the aftermath not only as survivors but as something more? Eli braced himself, knowing that whatever lay ahead, it could change everything. Would they rise to the challenge, or would this storm shatter their unity? The wind howled louder, stealing Eli's voice before it could escape his lips. He could see Lila scanning the group, worry etched on her face. The storms of nature paled in comparison to the gathering storm in the eyes of their community. It was more than a fight against the elements. It felt like it was a test of their spirit. "Listen up," Lila shouted, her tone piercing through the chaos. "We're stronger together. Everyone has a role. Let us make sure we're ready." Eli felt inspired by her strength. He stepped forward, raising his hands. "We've faced heavy rains. Let us hold on to that strength. Every pile we build is a reminder of our hope. We can protect our homes." Cheers erupted, mixed with the sharp crack of thunder echoing above them. The energy in the air crackled like electricity. Eli watched as neighbors glanced at one another, determination sparking in their eyes. They weren't just fighting for their homes, but for each other their memories intertwined in this community. Remember when the roof blew off Old Man Hargrove's barn? A voice called out from the back. It was Clara, the baker's daughter. We all pitched in to help him fix it. Just like now. We can do it. Eli's heart swelled at her words. He knew every brick of hope laid in their collective experience kept fear at bay. They stacked more sandbags, and with each layer, they were not just building a barrier against the water. They were building a wall of resilience against despair. Another round of thunder clapped, lower this time. The rain fell in sheets now, drenching them as wind gusts whipped through the crowd, scattering debris across the field. But they weren't deterred. Eli felt the rhythm in their labor, and when the laughter of children broke through, he couldn't help but smile. Eli, Caleb, Lila's voice rang out, a sharpness cutting through the noise. We need to move toward the hillside and check for stability. Gather some folks. Eli nodded, pointing toward Caleb. Let us go. We'll gather the tools. As they sprinted to grab anything useful, Eli stole a glance back, seeing the community's spirit rising. The storm that threatened to tear them apart only seemed to amplify their determination. They were all in this together. When they reached the hillside, Caleb climbed higher to assess the area. We need to secure the edges, or it'll wash away. He was quick, clear-headed, and Eli felt grateful for the depth of his knowledge. Grab as many planks as you can, Eli shouted to a nearby group. We can lay them down to fortify the incline. The team worked swiftly, and as Eli hammered the boards into place, he stole another glance at the town below. The water was already rising, churning violently. His stomach twisted. Is this going to be enough? Caleb's voice cut through the busyness, weighted with doubt. Eli stopped, wiping sweat and rain from his brow. He exchanged a look with Caleb, emotions spiraling between them. We have an army here, he replied firmly. We can weather this storm together. As if on cue, the clouds above shifted, and a faint glow peeked through, almost like a sign. Eli felt a lift in his spirit, a surge of resolve pushing him forward. Then came the sound of crashing waves hitting the barriers, the pressure mounting. The chaos of rain and gusts felt smaller now. The sliver of light brought hope, but Eli still sensed an uncertainty clinging to their plans. Suddenly, a booming voice rang through the tumult. Eli, Lila, we need all hands. It was Marcos, waving them over to a group pressing against the waterline. Eli's heart raced. Things were escalating fast, and they needed everyone's strength right now. Determined, Eli charged back toward the crowd, feeling the pulsing beat of connection all around him. With each step, he could sense that whatever happened next would either bring them together or tear them apart. But one question remained. Could their unity shine brighter than the storm they faced? Would they hold strong? Or would this night test everything they believed in? Eli pushed through the throng of frantic builders, urgency coursing through him. Each drop of rain that soaked his clothes felt more like a stampede of icy dread. As he reached Marcos, he took in the sight before him, 3 families struggling to reinforce a barrier that was barely holding against the rushing water. Eli, thank goodness you made it. Marcos shouted over the thundering rain, eyes wide with panic. We need more hands. Hannah and the kids are trapped near the old mill. His stomach dropped. Hannah and her children had always been part of the neighborhood's heartbeat, with their laughter echoing through the streets on sunny days. The thought of them in danger ignited a primal urge within him. Where exactly? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Down by the creek. The water's rising fast. Marcos pointed toward a gathering of trees nearby, where the luminescent sheen of water could be seen swallowing the earth. Eli didn't hesitate. Let us go. He turned to Lila, who was still near the previous barricade, barking orders. Lila, we need to help Hannah. She nodded sharply, face grim but filled with the fire of determination. I'll grab a few more people. Get to them. As they sprinted toward the creek, Eli's heart pounded in rhythm with the storm. He could hardly think about the sheer force of nature crashing down around them, everything focused on getting to Hannah, on saving her children. When they reached the bank, Eli's breath hitched. The water roared, treacherous and relentless. He grasped for the nearest tree, feeling the trunk slick beneath his fingers as he scanned for any sign of Hannah. Suddenly, a piercing shriek cut through the chaos. Eli's heart plunged as he spotted a flash of color through the thick rain, a red raincoat. Hannah! he bellowed, feeling every ounce of fear explode in his chest. Her face emerged from the curtain of rain, panic written all over it. She clutched onto her two young kids, who were struggling against her grasp like tiny fish caught in a net. Eli! Help! She cried, desperation mingling with the downpour. Without thinking, Eli plunged into the water, the cold pulling him down like a weight. Grab onto me! He shouted, arms outstretched. Hannah's eyes widened, and her hands shot out toward him. With strength born from sheer will, Eli waded deeper, the water surging past his waist. He steadied himself against the current and pulled her and the children toward him. Hold on! He shouted, feeling the narrowness of the escape pressing on them. Just then, the ground beneath him gave way, a patch of mud slimy from the rain, and Eli stumbled backward into deeper water, grasping for balance. The moment stretched into eternity, heart pounding as the kids whimpered. Eli! Hannah screamed, her voice raw and filled with frustration. With every ounce of determination, he regained his footing, muscles straining against the powerful sweep of the current. The pressure of hope surged inside him as he clutched the children tightly, their small arms wrapping around him for safety. Hannah! Climb up! He instructed through gritted teeth, trying to fend off the growl of looming despair in the cacophony around them. Climbing over rocks toward safety, he focused on the vivid image of Lila securing the perimeter, neighbors working tirelessly to save what they held dear. As they made it back to a higher ground, Eli turned around to see the stream churning violently, angered by the rain. Gasping for breath, he held the children against him and looked Hannah square in the eyes. We did it, he said, voice shaky but thick with pride. But as the world around them pulsed with stormy energy, he couldn't shake the feeling that their battle had only just begun. Eli, Hannah said, her voice faltering as her children clung to her tightly. What if the storm breaks the dam? What will happen to all of us? His heart sank, realizing that their victory here was only a small piece of a larger puzzle. Whatever lay ahead was still clouded, yet he knew one thing for sure: the strength of their community would be their most powerful weapon. As the winds howled and the rain fell, Eli felt the weight of a looming decision. Would they all rally together for what was about to come? Or would their courage wane under the relentless assault of the storm? Eli stood there, heart racing, the adrenaline from their narrow escape still surging through him. He could sense the tension in the air swirling like the wind around them. They had rallied together to save Hannah and her children. But now the bigger storm loomed ahead, one that threatened to wash away their very foundation. As they reached safety, the reality of the rising water struck him. It wasn't just a fight against nature, but against fear, doubt, and the weight of their past. Eli! Lila's voice cut through the chaos, bringing him back to the moment. She rushed towards him, soaked but fiercely determined. We need to regroup. The barrier's holding, but not for long. Everyone scattered, trying to help those in need. He nodded, the urgency clear in her eyes. Let us get back to the others. We have to unify. The ground beneath them felt tenuous, the air thick with anxiety. As they made their way back to the center of the community, Eli couldn't shake the images of Hannah's frightened face and the strength of her children clinging to him. He understood now what they were truly fighting for. It was not just about surviving the flood, but about holding tight to one another in the face of what lurked beyond the storm. When they arrived, a group had gathered, their brows furrowed with resolve. Caleb stood at the forefront, directing people as they worked rapidly to solidify their defenses. Eli's heart swelled with a sense of kinship he had longed for. Together, they could navigate not just this storm but whatever else lay ahead. Everyone! Eli called out, his voice slicing through the noise. We need to channel this energy into one collective effort. Each person has a part to play in this. Heads turned, and a glimmer of hope ignited within the crowd. Lila! He shouted, beckoning her closer. Help me organize the families. Let us create a chain of support up and down the riverbank. We need to remove any debris and fast. Yes. Lila's eyes sparkled. Everyone listen up. As the crowd started to move in action, Eli felt the change in energy. Fear began to shift into determination, and hope, a wave of purpose washing over them. With every moment he witnessed a beautiful transformation taking place. Eli, we could use those heavy stones from the old mill as anchors, Caleb shouted, stepping up beside him. There was newfound respect in his tone. And the kids could help carry smaller debris so we can fortify the walls better. Let us do it. Eli rallied, moving forward with renewed strength. Use every resources we have, our shared memories. Our sacrifices, they're what bring us together. We cannot falter. Across the gathering he could see understanding dawning on faces that once held skepticism. The tight-knit community that had hesitated before began to work side by side, young and old, every hand raised in unison as they worked to save their homes, their legacy, their family. As the rain fell harder, drenched skin glistened in the fading light like jewels of resilience. Eli joined his neighbors, digging deep against the mud, fingers raw yet strong. The kids laughed and shouted, drawing everyone into the rhythm of their spirits. The essence of what it meant to stand together radiated, driving him forward, and even as the skies roared, lifting clouds like a curtain, revealing the storm was fierce, he found strength in their connection. Each laugh and shared memory they built utilized the hurt and sorrow of the past, molding it into something unstoppable. Finally, as the winds howled louder and the water surged, Eli stood at the front alongside Lila and Caleb, catching their collective breaths, faces flushed with determination. "We are more than just individuals," Eli shouted, heart pounding fiercely in his chest. "We're a community, an unbreakable force. This storm may challenge us, but we will rise together." The chant echoed back, fueled by stubborn hope. Together. Together. As the rain hit harder, it felt like a baptism, a cleansing that washed away the prejudices, fears, and the barriers they had once held so tight. In that moment they became a tapestry, woven of their hearts and spirits, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Then Eli saw it, the glimmer of light breaking through the clouds, shafts piercing the darkness, showing unmistakable signs of a brighter horizon. Tears of joy filled his eyes as neighbors lifted their hands high, working in harmony. And in the face of the storm, Eli knew deep in his heart that they would not only face the flood, they would emerge stronger from it. This was their moment to transform, to rebuild not merely their homes, but the bonds that kept them together. As the thunder echoed one last time, each person stood firm, their spirits unyielding against the storm, no longer torn but transformed, their unity a beacon lighting the way ahead. Now more than ever, it was crucial for them to stand as one, and that's where the real journey began. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support is vital. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. Did it resonate with you? Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait, not even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.